Hello and welcome to Reuters' Next Newsmaker. I'm Abhirup and I write about the auto industry here in the US. We are on the sidelines of CES, one of the largest tech and mobility trade shows in the world. And today we have with us Martin Lundstedt, Volvo Group's CEO. He's been with the company for over a decade and handled all sorts of ups and downs. And we're going to talk about how 2025 looks for Volvo. Martin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me and Volvo. It's great to be here.
Let's start with the elephant in the room. We have a new administration coming in the US. President-elect Donald Trump is set to take over in about a couple of weeks. And the major threat for all sorts of companies functioning in the US has been of tariffs. How do you see tariffs impacting Volvo, the trucking industry broadly, and how are you preparing for it?
But first and foremost, obviously, when we look to Volvo as a company, we have a very strong North American and in particular North American presence and not at least in the United States. And the reason for that is out of our $50 billion plus in top line, more than 30% is actually happening in North America. And that means, of course, that we have a strong industrial footprint here. We have a full-fledged value chain on our own also, but also together with partners. So in that sense, we are a truly North American and US-based company. So for us, I think we have a good platform here. Then more generally speaking, depending on how tariffs and trade barriers plays out, it can have certain repercussions for general economic development, maybe on inflation development, but that is more of speculations. I mean, we are a company that is present in more than 190 countries. We are always, of course, used to work with the conditions that we see in different countries and regions, so that will be the case now. What we know is that transport and logistics will be needed. It will continue to grow due to a number of macro trends, and we will be there to support our customers.
You have recently said you're building a plant in Mexico, right? I mean, as part of North America, of course, but then Mexico is affected as well, and so is Canada, potentially. So, how do you see that? How are you planning? How are you planning to go ahead with that investment, or are you in some ways pausing and rethinking that? How does that work?
But first and foremost, I think it's very important again to state when it comes to our truck manufacturing for the North American market, today we are having everything of that based in the United States and primarily on the East Coast. So that is in Virginia, that is in Maryland, that is in Pennsylvania, etc. We have great facilities there. What we have said also for North America, but also for other parts of the American continent, South America, etc., we needed also to expand our footprint to the West Coast. I mean, and then we have taken a first step of establishing a facility in Mexico. Today we build 100% of our trucks in US for North America. But the planned facility there will primarily then serve Mexico, Canada, parts of United States possibly. But that depends, of course, on the development. So that is still to be seen.
Are you saying that if tariffs do play out, and I completely understand that we don't know in what shape or form they will play out, that you would then not use the Mexico plant to supply to the United States and limit that to Mexico and South America?
South America and Canada possibly. Let's see. I'm not very... I mean, given the fact that we are used to work with different type of conditions, I'm not so much about speculations. We have naturally built-in resilience in our industrial system. What I know is that we have a very strong US-based industrial footprint that we can utilize for the United States, and we will continue to do so.
Yes. One is you as an OEM manufacturing in the US for US, but the other is also you have a whole host of suppliers. And I've been speaking with a lot of suppliers who are actively now scenario planning in terms of how they can localize, how they can bring in sort of their supply chain. So it's tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. How are you looking at supply chain in terms of tariff mitigation? And how does that planning, have you accelerated in terms of tariff planning in the face of...
Yeah, both when it comes to tariff planning, but not a short-term play. Because for us it's always important also when we have an industrial hub, as we have in North America and primarily in the United States, as we have in Latin America, Europe and Asia, etc., that we are also building up, so to speak, a strong ecosystem of suppliers, both tier 1 but also tier 2. And I think also, to be frank, that it's good to see that a reinforcement of the North American supply base is coming now. So that I view as positive. Also that some of our main global suppliers, both American and European and Asian, are actually continuing to reinforce their footprint in North America. That is good.
What part of your supply chain comes for North America comes from overseas?
It's not much, to be frank. We have certain dual flows, and that is more for capacity planning. For example, when it comes to our powertrain side. But it's not really that it comes solely from overseas. It is more that we are trying then to level out and balance, since, I mean, seasonality cycles can vary a little bit, so you don't sit with under capacity certain periods of the years, or during the economic cycle, or over capacity. So it is more about that you have dual sourcing rather than you're sitting with specific cases. Then it's important now for new technology, such as battery technology, for example, that we continue to reinforce that presence in North America.
Are you boosting in that sense the supply chain in North America from outside?
I think one should know that we have invested billions of dollars doing the biggest North American and US-based investment program ever for the Volvo Group over the last couple of 4 or 5 years here. And that is both industrial investment and it is in complete product renewal now for Volvo trucks. And it's about to come big news also for Mack trucks that is turning 125 years this year. And in that regard, as one part of it is of course also that we have made sure that not only that we have a real, so to speak, technology renewal, that is fantastic by the way, but also that we are making sure that we are strengthening and building up, so to speak, the supply base here. Because with the big volumes we have in North America, it makes sense to have a strong footprint here.
Understood. Just to take a step back quickly into Mexico, are you saying that for now you're continuing your Mexico plant building plans, or is there in some ways a reconsideration?
No, but as we said, this is in an early stage that is continuing, and as I said, there are different opportunities to utilize the facility like that. We have a strong US-based footprint and we will continue to utilize that. So this is not a replacement of our American facilities as we have. As a matter of fact, we have invested more than ever in Virginia, in Hagerstown, in Maryland, in Pennsylvania, to increase capacity, to renew. So it's a complement, and that can be utilized in different directions.
Understood. When you plan such an investment, right, it's with supply chain as well as where your production facilities are, and the Mexico decision, right? You have a certain cost structure in mind. But when you talk about, let's say, double-digit tariffs potentially coming in, the cost structure changes dramatically. How do you mitigate that sort of cost around? How can you reduce cost? How can you pass on some of the cost? What's the strategy around that?
No, but obviously that depends on what type of situation you have. Now it's a big focus, and I think still it's high level of different type of assumptions that we are not sure about. Of course, we have seen these type of developments in so many different regions over the years. I've been in this industry for 30 plus years, and you see developments coming and going. It depends a little bit on if that is more a general type of situation for the whole industry, or if it's a specific situation for the company, how that will play out when it comes to the dynamics of commercial conditions, etc. So that is a difficult answer to have. What I say is that we have shown with 100 years experience that we are able to meet this because we have strong regional footprints all over the globe. And that I think is good both for our customers because we can then deliver trucks very closely, or construction equipment or whatever it is. But I think it's also a strong responsibility that you're present in your main markets with production, with R&D and with commercial activities.
Let me quickly follow up on that. In this kind of a scenario, yes, the industry is affected, right? Broadly, it's not just mobility, it is tech as well. All sorts of suppliers are affected, and all OEMs are affected in some ways if this potentially happens. In a tariff kind of a scenario, what is your cost strategy? I mean, is it more around cost cuts, or is it around passing on the cost, or is it a combination of both?
No, but again, it's very difficult to have a clear view. What I feel for Volvo Group is that we have the flexibility around this. Today, as we speak, we are producing 100% of our trucks for North America in the United States. So that is a starting point for us. And then let's see how it will play out. I think if it's a more general-based situation, the risk is that it will be, by necessity, passed on, not only in our sector, but in all sectors. And that could potentially trigger more of an inflation pressure. But let's see. I think it's too much of speculations. We are well prepared, and I think we are well prepared because we believe in regional presence.
Understood. The other part of the new administration coming in is around pulling back of EV subsidies, pulling back of a lot of EV incentives, in charging, for example. How do you see that affect Volvo? How do you see that affect the electrification of trucking broadly?
But first and foremost, I mean, I think it's important to remember when it comes to transport and logistics, as we are into, that is a very core part of economy to start with. We know that having advanced logistics systems is having a clear correlation with the GDP per capita in different regions. It's almost a straight line, actually. The more advanced logistics, and you can measure that in very straightforward terms, the better the development in GDP per capita. I think that is, as a matter of fact, often an understated fact, that you should go clearly into really refining your logistics systems, because that is a competitive advantage for nations. So that is number one. That will continue. And for Volvo Group, of course, we are serving our markets with the technology our customers would like to have. Having said that, knowing that transportation and the need of transport will grow with 4 or 5 times between 2010 to 2050. It's mass customization, it's urbanization, it is e-commerce and other different factors. We know that we need to have different solutions to cope with that. And that's the reason why we say going battery electric, going fuel cell electric, going combustion engine with renewables, but also continue to develop the combustion technology when it comes to fuel consumption, when it comes to aerodynamics that is valid for all technologies. We will do everything of that. Now what we see is not, I think, only related to politics. It is also that we need to continue to drive a coordinated effort when it comes to this transformation, because certain sectors, it really makes sense to go battery electric already today when it comes to regional distribution, city distribution, etc. If you can have a long-term view on, for example, electricity pricing, stability, grid stability, etc., then it makes sense already today. And what is happening is that it's driving utilization of the trucks, because you can utilize them also nighttime because they are quiet, etc. So you have a different type of dynamic. So often we talk about subsidies as the key factor in order to get things done. But I think it's more about how do we make sure that we are continuing to invest in an ecosystem that will provide advanced logistics. And some of them, where we are in the forefront and we believe strongly in that, is because it's both clean and competitive. It's not either or. And specifically now, when we would like to invest in the different key variables to make it happen at scale, charging being one, there I think, both governments and private states have a role to play because it's good for the country, it's good for competitiveness. So it's a business case basically.
I agree, but when you talk about any sort of transition in
Yeah.
technology, government plays a big role.
Yeah,
Plays a big
absolutely.
role. And this is not just the US, right?
No, for sure.
Right? When we see sort of, let's say, emission rules being
Yeah.
changed, green policies in Europe being uncertain, how do you see that affect adoption of electric trucks, for example?
No, but I think you are spot on. What is happening now is obviously that we need to make sure that we are, because when you talk about the hype cycle of whatever technology, we know that first it's, you see technology is coming, it's possible, you get this type of, almost inflated expectations to start with. And after a time, it goes down and you have a trough of some sort of disillusionment, right? And the reason for that is obviously that, or not obviously, but often that everything is not well coordinated to get, so to speak, over the last roadblocks to really accelerate. But once you have done that, the acceleration, you did see that with solar, you have seen that with wind partly, you have seen it with a lot of different technologies. But it has not been a straight line. It is a bumpy road. And there I think we are a little bit now that there is a certain level of hesitation. For us, as we have said, we have the broadest range today of battery electric. We are about to launch now a little bit more large-scale pilots for both fuel cell hydrogen and combustion hydrogen in the coming years. From an equipment point of view, the solutions exist. But also the other enabling factors must be there in order to make it happen. Where we see that governments can play a smart role, Switzerland being an example, where you're incentivizing, so to speak, the usage. Because then you're not paying for something that is not utilized. But on the other hand, if it's used, it's a cheap and smart way to encourage, so to speak, the adoption. And there you are on 5, 6, 8, depending on what other European country you compare with, on the adoption. So it's taking off. And once you're at 10, 12, 15, 20%, then it's getting self-propelled. Because one thing that we see, and we should not forget, it's not only about the specific cost for our customer. It is also about driver attraction. Drivers going in these type of new solutions, they don't want to go back. It's very difficult to attract really good drivers. And drivers are ambassadors for the transport companies. We see also companies are ready to pay certain extra premium also to getting a more clean solution. Because they need to decarbonize in turn, and logistics is a relatively good business case to abate CO2 in relation to many other choices that you can make.
I agree, but that is my concern, right? Companies have a business to run at the end of the day, and government support means a lot. Right? Look at China, we keep hearing about the kind of support that's there and the kind of progress they're making. Do you think, as you said, smarter as well, but stronger and more favorable policies from Europe and in the US under the new administration?
No, but what I think is important is that if you take China and other, I should argue, Asian countries, over the last maybe 10, 20 years have been more strategic in thinking about their balance sheet as a country. Where do you want to play? How do you want to win? What is important to us over the long term? And what is the role of the public side? What is the role of the private side? And I think if you look back in history also for Europe and North America, by the way, when we've had periods of both private and public investments, it has paid off. Because a public investment should be an investment on also commercial terms. When we built the railroads or the hydropower stations, etc., it was built, of course, to not be as an operational expense, but as an investment that will be depreciated over time. And if you take the hydropower stations, as I normally say in Sweden, for example, that is a brilliant business case. They were built like 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they are still operating well. So take care of your balance sheet also as a country. And in this transformation, I think you need to be bold and say, okay, what are the key elements? And coming back not only to, which I think personally is very important, about the clean and handing over something that works for coming generation. But it's also a matter of competitiveness, because technology and the right type of technology, that's the reason why I love to be here now in Las Vegas and the CES, will eventually win. And for certain of our industrial verticals that we are serving, battery electric or fuel cell electric will be the winners. And in certain sectors it will be combustion technology with different type of fuels.
There's a debate always about whether it's battery or whether it's hydrogen as the answer for trucking. Each side has an advantage, disadvantage and all of that. Could you slightly explain that and give us a sense of what Volvo's strategy is?
Yeah, first and foremost, you would love to have the single silver bullet. Think how much easier it should be for our 15,000 engineers and the whole ecosystem of brilliant engineers that we are cooperating with. The reality is that it's not that simple, because it depends so much on application type. It depends on, to your point, how different countries look upon it, what are the policies, what are the prerequisites in order to be successful when it comes to grid capacity, or if you have pipelines already for other type of fuels that you can utilize for hydrogen. What type of power generation system do you sit on? And therefore, what we see is that we need to have a modular product platform where we actually can utilize a lot of similar components, because you should remember that a truck or a bus here, I mean, if it's a battery electric or a fuel cell or hydrogen then electric, it's the same electric powertrain. The difference is that with a battery electric you have a bigger battery only, and then you charge it from time to time. With a fuel cell, then you have hydrogen on board, fuel cell converting that into energy, and then the same electric powertrain. You have also an intermediate battery in order to cope with transients, etc. Technical stuff. So it's more a matter of how does the energy system look like and what applications are the main applications. And therefore we have said we have a lot of things in common, we will go for both, but we will also continue to invest in combustion technology, mainly then for renewables.
With battery technology, the size of battery becoming the problem for payload, with hydrogen and the sourcing for hydrogen, how much is Volvo involved in resolving some of those issues in terms of supply of battery and battery technology versus solving the hydrogen problem? Do you look at sort of vertically being involved in that?
Yeah, we are partly. When it comes to battery, we are mainly now, you can say a battery is in a number of stages. You have the cell technology, the battery cell, then you have the modules, and then you have the pack, and the complete, so to speak, battery system, including software and cooling and what have you. And up to pack and modules and the complete system, we are highly involved with our proprietary also solutions. On the cell side, we have strong partnerships, but we are not doing that today. But we have announced that in 2030, 2032, we will also have cell production in order to secure that for Volvo, but we will do that in partnership. When it comes to hydrogen, the fuel cell, which is the critical component, and I've been so long in the industry, so I've always said that with the fuel cells and hydrogens, it has always been 10 years away. It was 10 years away in 1990, it was 10 years away in 2000 and 2010. Now it's not 10 years away anymore, because materials have developed, software has developed, and the whole technology and focus have developed, but you need scale. And that's the reason why we are partnered up with Daimler Truck, our biggest competitor globally, to actually develop and produce the fuel cell stack together to get scale and thereby bringing down cost, because that is the critical issue. Then for hydrogen in general, obviously, it depends so much country by country, what is the hydrogen strategy. And depending on your energy sources, we see that some countries will go for hydrogen for different reasons. So you need to have both.
One of the main challenges as far as electric cars are concerned, and specifically trucks as well, given the life cycle, is residual value. Right? There are so many concerns around what's the value of my used truck, a lot of them out there, let's say mom and pop shops wanting to buy some of that. How is Volvo sort of working on ensuring that concern is mitigated? Are you, let's say, in leases or guaranteed buyback programs? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, we have that. We have all sorts of, because to your point, as in any B2B business, obviously you're providing a wide range of different both customer finance solutions and also residual value type of conversations. So we have that. And obviously when it comes to the combustion technology, I think what will play out, how we look upon it, is obviously that coming back then to the hype cycle and how will the transformation go. What we now anticipate when it comes, so to speak, to the introduction region by region, we feel that it will be handled. It will be possible to handle, given the fact that it's not 0 to 100 during 1 year or 5 years. It will grow from today's 3-4% up to 15, 20, and then 30, etc. And then if you look to the whole fleet, it will be more than possible to manage. I think the other factor that is important is, of course, the new technology, and not at least when it comes to batteries, because with a difference to a car that is in reality not used. A car is utilized maybe 2-3% of the available time, but a truck is utilized 60, 70, 80% of the available time because it's the production equipment. There we see that customers want to have a reassurance of how do we view the battery life length, how should they think about that when calculating, so to speak, the economic conditions over 5 years or over 8 years and 10 years. And there we are participating in different programs to reassure that they can feel, peace of mind with that solution. Do you understand what I mean? So,
yes. Electric truck demand, there's an EV slowdown in EV demand sort of growth, right? Electric truck demand hasn't played out the way it was initially expected either. What is your view on EV truck demand in 2025?
No, I mean, to your point, we have a very strong position, Volvo. So for that sake, we know pretty well what is happening and the dynamics. We have, on heavy-duty trucking, we have almost 50% or 50% of the North American market, and we have 70% with Volvo and Renault in Europe. But still, to your point, the volumes are too small. And what we feel is, even if they are growing, I should say, so it's not a decline, but it's from low levels. And what we feel now is basically that you need to have more consistent conditions. Coming back to Switzerland, I think they have a very smart policy that it doesn't cost a lot. It's a very clear direction how to mitigate this. But that is one point. Then how do you get, so to speak, the economic equation or the TCO equation to work out? And you have specific application where it matters already today. The other big part is, as I said, some of the enabling conditions and that people feel secure about that. Obviously, charging infrastructure, but also the fact that electricity, and given, so to speak, the macroeconomic and the geopolitical situation in Europe have been forcing, or not forcing, but it has made, so to speak, electricity prices and also gas prices to be very volatile. And as a business person, we know that volatility is something that you don't like. And then maybe you say, okay, I know what I have in terms of stability. I need to see that stability more. And that's the reason why the continuous build out of energy generation, grid, and both, I mean, national, regional distribution and charging is so important. I think the interesting factor again, and I would like to come back to it, even if it has a certain premium cost per ton kilometer today, companies that have started to do this transformation, they don't want to go back. Because what they see is that they are getting more attractive as a supplier, as a business partner, but also as an employer. vis-à-vis drivers and others. People want to participate in this. They want to come being proud. It's a quite modern, robust type of solution that will work out. So there is more than only the simple comparison, but it's a job to be done. And I think that the regions and countries seeing the opportunity will understand this is a play for future competitiveness. And we see that. We need to say that China's accelerated very, so to speak, diligently in this area. And I think they see it from many different aspects, not at least when it comes to future innovation and competitiveness.
I mean, again, a company has to run the business, as I
Yeah.
said, right? Moving to electrification absolutely makes sense. That's what we've heard from others as well. But then it comes with that cost, and as you said, it's anything but certain, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's politics, whether it's policy, or the macro environment. Given what you've said, do you then expect a further slowdown in 2025 in EV truck demand?
No, but I think also the general economic sentiment, as you know, has been also a general slowdown. And when you have a general slowdown also from the economic situation, it also means that people are getting more hesitant to new solutions because they want to see, okay, how does stability come back in the economic cycle? So I think also we have that from that perspective a little bit.
Understood. You delayed start of the Sweden battery factory. Could you give us some sense of why that delay, where that stands now?
Yeah, and that is very much actually related to what we have discussed here, that the transformation is going somewhat slower than we had anticipated. We have, as I said, for our cell production, strong and good partnerships with a number of very prominent cell suppliers with long contracts. And again, a little bit that we discussed about, our industrial footprint. When we looked upon the situation, we see that we fine-tuned our time plan when we really will need that type of capacity to add for both Europe and North America and others. So it is no drama, it is no change in plan, it is that we are aligning to reality, basically.
Is there a better sense of the timeline now around when you want to do that, or is it still in sort of...
No, I think it's a better sense, obviously, because every time or every year that passes, and interesting enough also, the more applications that are going electric, so it's not only about, looking at heavy-duty truck and see, okay, what is the adoption rate. We are going broad, buses, construction equipment. We are building BESS or energy storage systems through Volvo Penta and Volvo Energy. High demand for that. So we have more also downstream opportunities now, and that will also support, so to speak, a more robust planning around this. So I feel confident about it.
Is there a new timeline for start of production now?
Yeah, it is a preliminary. We have said that it's a couple of years. We said that we should be more in high volume production in 29, 2030 originally. Right. Now we are more talking about a couple of years later.
I see. So 2031, 32.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I wanted to take a step back into broader demand for Volvo trucks and trucking industry as well. We've seen orders sort of come down from the post-COVID highs that we saw. Could you explain what the factors are at play and how can you offset that in some ways that you've said is normalization of demand? How do you offset that?
No, but first and foremost, obviously, if you look at the underlying trend lines of trucks and transport, it's highly related to the general economy, right? And now with central banks and general policy has been to, cool off economy after post-COVID, so to speak, expansion. It has been highly expected that, higher interest rates giving lower demand, lower consumption, and thereby lower demand for transport. So this is an anticipated situation that we have seen. Having said that, volumes are still solid, I have to say. We are not experiencing situations that we did see during the Great Recession, for example, 2008, 2009. It is a more type of balanced system. what we are doing, apart from the fact that we are global, as I said, and we have dual sourcing, so we can mitigate partly because some of the regions are doing really well still, is obviously that we have a built-in flexibility in our industrial system. So we can take swings of plus minus 15-20% that is built into the company's industrial system, because you need to have that in a cyclical economy. Having said that, we are also very strong in services. So that is also serving as a very good cushion for our business. So 2025, we guided in relation to Q3 presentations, as we always do. We are guiding for a softer market, both in Europe and North America, but no drama. Of course, at one point in time, pre-buy in North America will start to take place for the 2027 legislations and regulations. When that will happen, let's see. But generally speaking, I'm very positive about the future of transport. When we look at the general estimates, and I said that during the keynote today also, I mean, transport will multifold 4 or 5 times up to 2050 if you have 2010 as a base year. So this is a growth case. And in addition to that, by the way, the transformation is a growth case for us, because we are getting, so to speak, a bigger participation per unit with our customers when they are going electric or hydrogen.
Yeah. Even with the normalization in 2025, where do you see that level off in some ways? Do you have a timeline for when you expect demand to settle?
Yeah, but I think it's very much related to what we see also in general economy, that, I mean, now, so if I may say so far so good with the measures that have been taken from the central banks to fight inflation. If that continues to be successful, and they can, so to speak, start to, and they have started, of course, to take down interest rates. If consumer confidence is coming back, feeling that this is more new normal, that interest rates will be on lower levels, then we will see consumption picking up, and then transport will come back.
But transmission of interest rates takes time, right? And
yes.
And there's a lag, so which is why I was trying to understand if you have a sort of a sense of how long this can continue.
No, but I don't think it's a drama. We are forecasting both European and North American market that yes, it is a correction in relation to the peak years, but it's still good years. And then I think growth will come back more step by step when consumer, and it will be also for consumers step by step, which is a wise decision, by the way, because if you think about it, and that is more a general comment, it doesn't make sense in a risk and reward society. Time is money, that you have more than a decade a world with negative interest rates. I mean, where risk is not costing anything, that cannot be a normal situation. So personally, of course, wanted to avoid this swing, but now trying to get back to a situation with, if I may say so, normal interest rates around 2.5%, and thereby inflation, and thereby interest rates somewhat higher. I think it's a good thing for the world, actually.
How do you, when something like this happens, the volatility that you mentioned, it has a clear impact on the bottom line, right?
Yes.
In some ways, Volvo has managed that bottom line. In what way have you cut costs, and what way do you plan to, going ahead, manage costs? Could you give us a sense?
Yeah, but first and foremost, as I said, I mean, we have worked a lot with the built-in flexibility in our industrial system. We have done that, I think, in a very good way. We have worked very much with our labor representatives in order to find the smart way of doing that in terms of flexibility. We have, I think, been good in anticipating also demand, so we have been a little bit ahead of the curve, because this is a question of courage also, that you want to be ahead of the curve, and because often you hope a little bit for the best, but it's better to plan for somewhat and act a little bit on the worst there. Then I think we have been growing our service business quite a lot, and that is serving as a cushion, because When demand is coming down, services on the new products, it's not doing that in the rolling fleet, and that is a very important part of our resilience today. And we have introduced a lot of new technology, you should not forget about that, and with new technology, pricing power is coming because we are getting paid for value, and we have invested more than ever in research and development over the last 7, 8, 9 years, and that is paying off.
In this kind of a scenario, and we've discussed the uncertainties in the US as well as in Europe, how do you see green investments from Volvo, which has been a focus for Volvo, going ahead? Is there a sense of caution around how much money you put into green investments?
No, but I think again, I mean, the pathway to the future for us is clear, but then it's more about refining the timelines. I mean, we want to lead and be, so to speak, in the forefront, but you cannot be Don Quixote, fighting all the windmills alone like Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. So you need to refine your timelines, obviously, still being in the lead, but the battery factory is an example of that, how we are refining. So you should think about capital and resource and talent allocation, of course not a year-by-year play. It is, so to speak, a planning over time. And in that time span, we are planning for different scenarios. And a lot of these things are not only, if I may say so, labeled green. It's good for everything. It's good for safety. It is good for uptime, availability, etc. So it has, so to speak, multiple use, which is fantastic. I mean, I should say that we will not divert from the fact that we want to lead this three-path strategy of battery electric, fuel cell electric, when it comes to combustion technology with renewables, when it comes to recyclable material, fossil-free steel, etc. Because we think it will matter from a competitive situation, and we want to make this shift happen. It will be good for the business, but it will also be good for society. That is our. But I think we have a well-balanced view on looking at our capital allocation.
When you talk about Sweden battery plant, for example, in green investments, are there other examples of where you are holding off in that?
I should not call it really holding off. It's more about refining the strategy, right? And really fine-tune the time planning. And that is happening all the time, and that could be for other reasons as well, obviously. I mean, how quick should you do the next phase of an expansion of a factory that maybe starts with 20,000 unit capacity, and we know it should go up to 30 and then 40. So it's a constant dialogue in management, together with board and all our experts around that. So it is not a black and white situation. Having said that, we think that industry and I tend to say Volvo in particular, but industry, we have invested enormous now, and that's the reason why we are also calling for action when it comes to the enabling conditions, charging, grid capacity, etc. Because we need to make sure that all the investments that we have done will be sweating, because we need technology to sweat in order to bring competitiveness.
My last interest is in autonomous vehicles.
Absolutely, that's
fun
for real as well.
Overall, autonomous vehicles haven't played out in the way it was initially expected, and so is the case in trucking. There is a business case in trucking, right?
Absolutely.
Short, haul, long haul. How does Volvo's autonomous vehicle strategy look in the near term, and what are you doing organically versus partnerships with other software players?
But first and foremost, I mean, we are already in commercial operations when it comes to confined areas. So we learn a lot there, for mining, for quarries. We will see that in ports and terminals, etc. The big play now is, of course, also the on-highway, to your point, short and long haul. I think also the industry has matured and said, okay, don't involve too many of the super complicated use cases. Not only the hub to hub and the hub, and include also the spoke system, when you're going from the big hubs into cities or smaller terminals. Exclude that for the time being and go for the big bets that is really the hub to hub solutions. And there we are very positive about it, because it is often separate lanes. It is still, of course, a very advanced system, but it's a system that could be developed from a safety standard that we absolutely need to have in order to make it happen. And to your point, the business case is very strong on that, because if you take the longer haul pieces between big distribution centers, for example, if you can do that with autonomous, it will play a big role. And we are partnering with the best in the industry. This morning, for example, at our keynote, we had Aurora Innovation with Sterling Anderson on stage together with Lars to talk about this, because with the Aurora virtual driver and our redundant autonomous truck, we will soon see them even without a safety driver, and that is of course a big step for the future.
On that note, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Us. This was very great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It was great.
Thank you all for watching.
Thank you very much. All good?